from Scrapping Under the Influence. Okay, so for our mini kids travel album, travel journal, really, you're going to need about 36 to 40 inches of elastic cording. This is just some out of the craft section, or the kids crafts at Michael's. So it comes in a whole bunch of colors. It's cheap. That's what we're using for that. You also need to make the little booklet inserts, some either really heavy duty copy paper or some other kind of drawing paper. This was out of a drawing pad also from Michael's, and where it was 9 by 12, I could actually get 2 pages for the little booklets out of each sheet of this, so that worked really well. So we're going to start with our inserts. The pages for the insert measure 7 3/4 by 5 3/4, and you're going to score them in half, which is going to be at 3 7/8 with the 7 3/4 side at the top. And the reason you don't want to use just normal copy paper is when you go to score this, to bend it, to put it in your booklet, it will tear. I tried that originally. I did not have the best paper in my printer behind me. And when I was kind of playing with this to see how this was actually going to work, that's what I was trying to use, and it does not score well. So that's how I ended up with the drawing paper instead. It's a little bit heavier, depending on what kind of little pen or whatever you put with the album for your kids to use it. You know, I tested this paper with some just plain old Crayola markers, and it doesn't bleed through, and you can kind of see it, but I was also using a brown marker, so of course you would kind of be able to see it because it's darker. If I was using a lighter color, I don't think I would have been able to see it on the other side. So just be conscious of that when you're picking your paper that's going to go inside of the inserts. Okay, so we're going to have 3 inserts, so you need 12 pieces total. You're going to do 4 in each book. I'm going to set those aside for just a second, and I'm going to grab my paper. So I think I'm going to use this one on my cover, and I'm going to use, yeah, let's do it that way. All right, so we are going to cut 3 pieces, and I've lost my notes, sorry, bear with me just one second, that are 6 by 8. Which means I could have done, no I couldn't. So as you'll see, this is a project that's going to be really simple. It's not going to take up a ton of paper. Really, depending on what you had as far as scraps, this really is one you could use scraps to do. And normally I would have, but I was just so excited over this. I would have normally saved something like this for a later project and literally just designed it to use scraps. But it was one of these things, like I had this idea and I was like, wonder how this will turn out. And my prototype was so cute. That's why we're doing this now. So, okay, so we've got our paper for our inserts. Just need to decide which one is what's going on the outside and what's going on the inside. So I think I'm gonna do polka dots on the outside. So we're gonna score this at 4 inches. On this one, I think I'm gonna do it that way. we're going to do it that way. Okay, so there's our 3 little books. And then to put the pages inside the books, it's entirely up to you how you want to do this. You could go in here with some thread and sew these in. I actually was lazy and wanted to see if it would work because I didn't want to dig out white thread the other night when I was playing with this. Sorry, I did not fold that well. There we go, much better. So I actually glued them. It worked really well. I wouldn't do this with anything except the fine tip with your art glitter, because I was able to run just the tiniest bit of glue down the center there and then stack my pages in. And then do the same thing in the spine. Just run it right down where you have creased that. Line it up, center it in there, and close it up. And that's one of your inserts. I actually did just set these off to the side once I got them put together. So I'll come back and do these here in a bit. Let's move on to the base of our album. So for the base, literally I used scraps of chipboard because it's not real big. So for your base, you need 2 pieces that are 4 1/4 by 7 and 1 piece that is 1 1/4 by 7. To wrap that, you need 1 piece that is 9 inches by 12 inches. And you know, I like to score these top and bottom to help line up my chipboard pieces. And then again on one end. So you're not going to have quite an inch on each end, but I didn't think it was worth piecing 2 small pieces together. You'll have more than enough to wrap it, so I'm actually going to do this at 3/4 of an inch from the edge. So let me, and I also did my adhesive on all 3 of these with 1 sheet of the 8.5 by 11 score tape. So again, like I said, this is not a real paper intensive project, which is nice. And then I think I used, excuse me, I'm losing my voice today. 2 sheets of artisan cardstock is all to build the book itself. So really, like I said, you know, it's a simple project. It goes together really quickly. So we're just going to line that up on our score lines. We're going to go ahead, of course, and do our 1/4 inch score tape in our little valley there. For crying out loud. Again, you're going to line that up against the side of that score tape and against your score line at the bottom. And one more time. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the backing off of these center pieces. Right. And then we are going to miter our corners. And I've been doing it a little bit differently lately, and I really kind of like how it comes out better. Instead of going across like this, I've actually been doing it kind of like you do your pockets when you're putting pockets inside your books. I've just been happier with like the end result here. I don't seem to end up with any kind of gaps anymore, and that's always good. So, okay, I'm going to take my 1/2" score tape. I'm going to tape around my sides here. Okay. Burnish that down. And then, again, because it's small enough, you don't necessarily need to train the cardstock where it needs to go, but it's just habit at this point. And then I'm going to run just a little bit of glue there. Necessarily, but just like, I don't know, it did not want to bend. That's okay. And again, one more time. All right, so I'm going to find my foam holder, and we're going to work our hinges. And work that paper down into all right. So now, to cover the inside of this piece is 6 7/8 by 9 3/4. You could go a little longer if you wanted to. You could go smaller and just hide the center part because you're going to end up matting all of this. It's entirely up to you. I can't find my... Okay, I guess I'm using score tape because I can't find my other. That's okay. Okay, and then I'm going to run some here, like this, just to help it stick down at those hinge points. Okay. All right. Let me get our tape off of here. all the way to the ends. Okay. Alright, then we're going to use our bone folder again and just get that paper down into that crease. And there is our base. So the next thing we're going to do, and this is how our little booklets are going to go in, just like a traditional, big traveler's album, traveler's notebook. You know how you have your elastic that you slip your booklets in and out with. So what I'm doing is I'm lining my ruler on here. I'm centering it between the two pivot points on our base. At least I think I am. Maybe I'm not. There we go. And I've got it 1/2 inch from the bottom. What I'm going to do is start. For some reason that just does not look right to me. Okay, so there we go. 1/2 inch up from the bottom. I'm going to make a dot in the center. I'm going to make another one. Oh, how far am I going on this? About right there. So about 5/16 of an inch apart. Okay. Turn around the other direction. We're going to do the same thing again. Sorry, I'm just having a horrible time seeing this today. We go up 1/2 inch. Do our 3 dots. And then to make sure everything is straight and lined up right, I'm just going to lightly draw a line and make sure it's lined up. So now I'm going to get my crocodile. I'm going to use the smaller of the 2 punches. And of course it's got stuff in there because it always does. There's it. There we go. I'm going to line that up, looking down through the hole in the top and finding the little mark that I made on my cover, and I'm going to punch a hole. I'm slightly off on that one, but that's okay. Of course, this doesn't want to clear out for me because sorry. And you probably are going to have to stop and like clear that out in between, just because otherwise you can't see where you're lining your hole up at. Okay. They were slightly off, it'll be fine. And again on the other end. And one last time. All right. So there's the base of our book. Now, okay, so next thing we're going to do is put in our pockets. So we have two pockets, a long pocket side loading in the front, and then stacked pockets in the back. The back pockets are 5 1/4 by 4 1/2, scored at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. The bottom pocket is 5 1/4 by 3, same thing again. You're going to want to miter your corners. I've done it on the other two, just not on this one. Okay. And then we're gonna get our backing off of here, maybe. I should have folded those before I did that, but that's okay. Oh, don't do that, no. Just having an off morning today, I swear. Okay, anyway. So we're going to put our pocket down. You're going to put it all the way out to the edge. And then we're going to do the same thing again, only this time I'm going to fold it first. That makes way more sense. And then we're going to again. Okay, so we've got our back pockets in. We've got our side loading pocket that's going to come in here. This one is 8 by 3 1/2. We're going to put that down over here. And then across from that, we're actually going to do some loops to hold a pencil or a marker or something of that nature in the book. Because typically when you have the adult versions of travel notebooks, that's what's over there. So put that down, and we just need to decide about where we're going to put this. So when the elastic is in here and the booklets are in here, you could put it more towards the center spine and it would be fine. You could kind of put it here in this little gusset area and it would be okay, because I'm not using anything that's really big. The alternative I had in here to use was just a Crayola marker, which is a little bit bigger, but you know, that would still work. I actually had some really great erasable colored pencils, but they're longer than the book, so unless I want to sit and like sharpen it down till it's shorter, we're just going to stick with this cute little mechanical pencil that I picked up at Walmart last night for like a whole package of like 10 of them for like $1. It was amazing. So you can do this with ribbon. You can do this with, if you had some, you know, just elastic like you would put in clothing, you know, you could do that, because then you could do it a little bit tighter and it would have some give to it. You know, we could probably figure out how to do it with some of our cording that we're going to use here in a minute. I think I'm actually going to use some seam binding. So I'm going to gut myself just a little piece of the seam binding here. And then I just need to decide, am I just putting one loop in the middle? Am I putting one loop towards the top? Am I doing 2 loops to hold it, you know, kind of still? I think what I'm going to do is just one towards the top, so that when the pencil goes in here, it's going to catch on that little front. And actually, I need to cut that yet. Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm going to take a small piece of score tape, and I'm actually going to cut that so it's got a nice straight edge on it. or not. Oh my gosh, I'm just on a roll today. I don't want the white stuff, I want the 3/8. Okay, and I'm actually going to put this just ever so slightly down into that hinge point there, okay? And because this is seam binding and it's nice and thin, it's not going to add like unnecessary bulk underneath the matting when we mat this. Okay, so then I'm going to set this in here, put that through, and I've got it up too high. So let's try this again. Oh look, that just pulled right up. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to move that down just a touch. So yeah, that is one thing you will want to pay attention to. Where is your pencil going to go? Is it going to be up high enough? Is it going to be up too high? And then we're just going to do another little piece here. I'm actually going to fold that back. Lift up for me. For crying out loud. There we go. Okay. And with the pencil in there, I'm going to just push that down. I'm going to trim off the excess. And there's our holder. Okay. So now we can go ahead and mat this inside part, simply because we need to mat here before we put our elastic cording in here. Okay. So I am going to just run a little bit of glue on this. And I'm going to put this down in here. Give that a second to dry. In the meantime, we're going to mat our pieces here. So for the matting for this, we're doing 6 3/4, and I've got this at 1 1/8, just so it comes a little bit closer to the edge. And then for my pieces here, these are both 4 inches, I think. What did I end up with? Yes, 4 inches by 6 3/4. What I'm going to do, rather than, and I mean, like, that's where I say this is a really good project if you've just got scraps, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure how high this pocket is. So the finished pocket is 2.5. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut, not quite 2.5. I'm going to go about 2 3/8. And that will be my mat for that pocket. And I'm going to measure the next one, and the next one is 1, and my gap here is 1 1/4. So I'm actually going to cut that at 1 1/4 so I can tuck it just ever so slightly down into that pocket. So I could leave it like this, but I think I'm actually going to turn it over to the dot side. And I measured something wrong, didn't I? Boy, did I ever. Oh well, that's okay. It'll be fine, because then this piece is just going to go in here just like that. And I need to get here. There we go. Okay. And that's going to just slide ever so slightly underneath there. And there we go. For this other side, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to measure here. So that ends up being 2.5. So I'm going to go 2 3/8. Just split that down the middle. And I think I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to flip that over onto the back side. Okay. And then again. And that's going to cover up the edge of our pin loop. We'll still be able to get this down in here, just like so. And there we go. So now we're going to flip this over again and take my little pokey tool. And I'm going to poke my holes through from the back side. And then flip it back over, go through from this side, and work those out. Okay. All right. So now, on the back side here, what I have done is I took my ruler, I found my center point of the cover of the book, and I've made a little dot. Okay. What we're going to do is start getting put our elastic on here for our books. So I'm going to hold one end of the elastic right where that little center dot is. You just barely see it right there. There we go. Okay. I'm going to hold that there with one finger. And then I'm going to thread my elastic through the first hole and then down to the bottom. Okay. I'm just going to go to the hole right next to it. And if you didn't want to wrap your spine, because we're going to end up wrapping paper across this on the outside to cover up the elastic, if you didn't want to do that, that's entirely up to you. I just really kind of liked how it turned out doing that on my prototype. So that's why we're going to do this again. And since this is fairly thin cording, it does work really well to do it. It doesn't really cause too much extra bulk, and that's good. Okay, so we've got this through. Just going to kind of pull on it, get it tight, flip it over, and then we are going to knot this in the middle, getting it over that dot as best we can. Okay. All right, so we're over our dot. Then we're going to close our book. We're going to come around. We're going to come up and under. Okay, so we've come around. We've come under. Whoops, we want that to stay there. I'm going to go around one more time. So I've come up and under, across, and then over. And then we're going to knot it again. And then one more time. All right, so now you've got your closure and you've got your inside for our books, or for our inserts. Okay, so now you've got this hanging off the back here. Okay, And just so I don't cut the wrong thing, I'm actually going to wrap that back around. So I'm going to cut my extra edges or ends down fairly short. And then we're going to cut our paper to mat the outside of the book. So again, it's going to be 6 3/4 high. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut our mats for the front. We're going to do these 4 1/8, 4 1/8. Okay, those are going to be our mats for the front and the back. The piece that's left is what we're going to wrap around. Okay, so I just need to decide, am I doing the wrap is going to be the eyeballs, or am I going to do it the other way and the wrap is going to be the balloons? I think the wrap is going to be the eyeballs. I'm going to set those two aside for a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, since we're going to use the eyeball side, we need tape over the entire back of this. What I'm going to do is I've got some scraps of score tape sheets. I'm going to do one right here in the middle. Okay. And I'm going to do just 1/2 inch on both sides. All right. And really, I could have covered this a little bit better, but it will be okay. So what we're going to do now, I'm just going to kind of hold this. Actually, I know how we were doing this. This was how I did this. Sorry. I'm going to find the center of this. So using the ruler, we're going to be about right. Help if I could turn it the right direction, wouldn't it? Okay. And that's just an approximate for a cross. And then we're going to find our center going this way. Okay. So I'm going to erase that first little mark. Maybe. Okay. And then we're going to get the crocodile one more time. And we're going to go in here on that mark. No, we're not going to do it with the crocodile. It's not long enough. I'm trying to think how I did this the other day. Maybe I did just do it with the pokey tool. Okay. On that mark where we made, that's the center of the back of our, and I'm just going to double check. So 3 1/8, and it's not right. We are off. Okay. We're going to try this one more time. We need the center of the back of the book. Okay, so we are at 3 3/8 and 3 3/8. We're going to find the center of the other direction as well. Again. All right, now then, we've got our center. We're going to get our pokey tool. We're going to put a hole in the middle of this. And we're going to just kind of work it till it's a little bit bigger. Okay. And if you had, of course I've got the big crocodile, the long-armed one. I just am not sure where I put it since I moved into this room because it's not something I use all the time. What I did, you could use an eyelet here. That would probably be a really good idea. Again, I can't find my big crocodile. I don't know if I have any eyelets for it. So what I did instead, if my punch wants to work, which apparently it doesn't, I have this little punch that's going to completely fight with me today. That is to make little reinforcements for like planner pages. And I don't know why this is not cutting for me. Anyway, it was fine yesterday. And it doesn't want to cut through on those. There it is. Okay. So all I did is I cut these little reinforcements with that punch. I put one on the back side once I pull the tape off, and then I'm going to put two on the front to just kind of clean that up a little bit. Okay, I don't know why this does not want to punch today. There we go. That one's better. Yeah, I wonder what happened to my punch. Weird. Okay. Anyway. Alright, so I'm going to do two of them on top to just kind of reinforce this area and clean it up. And then I'm going to do one underneath once we pull the backing off of our tape. Okay. I'm actually going to pull this up. I'm going to put that down. And I'm going to put it back down because we don't want it to actually take that off just yet. So what we're going to do, first off, you're going to make your book sure your book is up right side up. And then we're going to feed this that is just not playing well today. Up through that hole. There we go. Obviously not as bad as it sounded, right? Okay, so you've got your closure fed through the hole. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to pull that score tape off of, or the backing for the score tape off of that center section. And this will pull up a little bit as you do it. It's fine. And actually, even before I do that, I think what I'm going to do is this will kind of help that stay. Lost the end of my score tape. I'm actually going to put a little piece of score tape on this hinge here. Push that over a little bit so you can see. To kind of hold that in the center where it needs to be. And then we're going to pull this through. And we're going to put this down. Let's try this again. Pull that through. Line this up so that we've centered it top to bottom. side to side. And we're going to push it down. Okay. And that's crooked. Of course it's crooked because this is not my morning. Literally everything I've touched today has just been a mess, but that's okay. We can very carefully, maybe. And this does take some practice, and if you didn't want to do this piece, if you wanted to just mat that as normal and then, you know, feed your cording through, so you know you had a little bit fancier back, you could totally do that. I didn't want to do that. So alright, so we've got it on there. You'll see it just a little bit, but not bad. Okay, so we haven't put our little flaps, or I'm sorry, yeah, our little flaps down yet, because what we want to do is you want to make sure when you put this down that you're doing it so that it doesn't come up from behind your wrap. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, get some glue on the back of this. Okay, I'll line this up where I want it to be and push it down. And then you're going to hold your book open. You're going to push that spine down so that the spine is flat on the table. You're going to pull your score tape backing off on this side, and you're just going to very carefully wrap. Okay? So then there it wraps perfectly on that side. We're going to do the exact same thing on the back. We're gonna slide that down just a touch. Okay. And we're gonna do the same thing again. You're gonna push that down in on the spine. Pull your backing. This one's kind of stuck underneath there because of course it is. And we're going to hold that at that slight angle again, and you're just going to back and forth across and get that pushed down. And there you go. There's your book. So, inside, outside are all matted. I just need to finish putting together our other two little inserts. So there's one of them that has been glued. Everything's staying put. And then you just slip them on here like so. And then there you go. Decoration wise, we're going to keep it to a minimum because, you know, where this is something that is, the intention is for it to be handled and used, you know, you're not going to want to get, especially by a child, you're not going to want to get super dimensional with your decorating or anything like that. But yeah, that's it. So I will put together my other two little booklets. As soon as I figure out where I put them. Apparently now I've lost those over here in the mess on my side table. But, you know, just a little bit of light embellishing on the front and you're done. There you go. I hope you enjoy it. If you make your own version, by all means, please share it in Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations, Country Craft Creations Social, page, and then on my page, Scrapping Under the Influence, because I would love to see what you come up with. Thanks.